Good evening and welcome to 1010, your top 10 news in 10 minutes. I'm Andy Hong. I know this is all a bit sudden and I must apologize for all the irregularity with the schedules. It comes with the chaos of being in a transition state, and I assure you it'll get taken care of as time progresses. And since Thursday was last week and we delivered the news weekly, we still technically kept up with our agenda of being a weekly news team. So good for us. Well, anyways, here goes our top 10 news of the week. Last week, we reported on the historic referendum in which Greek voters would either accept or reject a bailout offer from international creditors for the debt-ridden nation. The referendum happened yesterday, and the results came out to be a resounding, overwhelming rejection of foreign interference in Greece's wreck of an economy. 61.3% of voters voted no to the issue on grounds that the bailout terms were, according to the BBC, humiliating. This could mark the end of Greece's membership in the Eurozone, as the country can either have the Bank of Greece ignore the European Central Bank and make risky loans to save Greek banks, or make a new currency, both of which will provoke strong reactions from other nations in the Eurozone. A meeting of various leaders of Eurozone nations is scheduled for Tuesday, which is tomorrow, and there is no doubt that Greece will be a central topic in the meeting. Tuesday is also the deadline for Iran's nuclear deal. Secretary of State John Kerry, along with officials from 5 other world powers, have been cautiously figuring out a deal with Iran to halt the crippling economic sanctions that Iran has been suffering through in exchange for stopping the weaponization of Iran's enriched uranium. On the surface, the reports are filled with information on how progressive and positive the meetings are. However, there are also accusations of coercion and dishonesty. Also, even if a deal is reached, it must be reviewed and approved by Congress, and the Republicans are vehemently against this deal with Iran on charges of not being able to trust Iran's intentions with its nuclear stockpile once the sanctions are removed. Would it be great if we could just trust everybody and get along? But no, there's always going to be haters. In Nigeria, a suicide bomber blew herself up in a church during Sunday Mass, killing 5. This is just the latest edition in a week of attacks by the Boko Haram terrorist group, which claimed about 200 lives. It's troubling how very few even knew about the gunmen storming a Nigerian mosque and village last Wednesday, killing more than 140 people. Meanwhile, in Syria, the city of Raqqa is the target of the latest coalition airstrikes on ISIS, or as many more now call it ISIL targets. 16 airstrikes have been conducted on ISIS assets in Raqqa recently, yet inevitably not without collateral damage to civilians and private property. According to U.S. Central Command, there have been over 4,200 confirmed airstrikes in Iraq and Syria. Meanwhile, in Iraq, a technical problem seemed to have caused the bomb to fall in a residential area in Baghdad, killing at least 8 people. The Russian-made Iraqi Air Force jet was returning from a mission against ISIS targets when the bomb, which was lodged in the pylon and refused to come off the plane during the attack run, suddenly fell on civilians. It is also predicted that at least 3 children were also victims of this accident. The Iraqi Air Force used to be one of the more powerful in the Middle East until the Persian Gulf War saw the U.S. Air Force, along with its NATO and Middle Eastern allies, completely wipe out the fighting force. In addition to its tiny force of American-made F-16s, it also received old, used Su-25 attack jets from Russia last year and rushed them into service, even though the planes were incompatible with Iraq's predominantly American military equipment. Perhaps the second-hand nature of the plane, or the lack of proper equipment or training, led to the tragic mishap. When these things happen abroad, we often forget about incidents back home. Over the weekend, Chicago once again was the center of gun violence that killed 10 and injured 50. Yes, the figures are lower than last year, which saw 16 people dead and 80 wounded, but the numbers will never be satisfactory or good until it reaches 0. There was a 30% increase in police presence that helped seize 1 illegal firearm per hour, but it didn't stop all the violence from happening. Chicago had more than 400 gun-related deaths each year for the past 2 years. For those who still don't get it, guns are a problem in this country. And just to bring the mood back up, Donald Trump. Trump proudly declared that Mexicans are sending criminals, drug cartels, and rapists into the United States and refused to retract his assertion. Fortunately, karma is hitting back hard now. Numerous corporations and media stations stopped their cooperation with Trump, and several presidential candidates from the Republican Party rejected Trump's statements. Now, many candidates such as Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton, Marco Rubio, and Chris Christie, to name a few, are out and about gathering voters and meeting supporters. Maybe Trump's outbursts managed to help boost the other candidates' reputation and support, Nope. According to CNN, Donald Trump is ranked second place for the Republican presidential candidate at 12%. But if you think about it, Bush and Clinton are leading their respective parties in terms of support. If they come out for the election and one of them wins, we will have had by 2024 32 years of presidency by either someone from the Bush family or the Clinton family, excluding the 8 years by President Obama. Combo breaker. Woo! For today's taste of local news, a man and his dog were each stung more than 100 times by bees that the man was keeping illegally at his home. Apparently, he had been giving a bath to his dog after it got sprayed by a skunk, and the bees, attracted to the water in this time of drought, stormed the two. Fire crews came to help and managed to get the man to the hospital, although his condition is unknown. The dog is also fortunately alive. According to an interview between CBS and the man's family member, the bees were kept not for honey but for the environment in response for the diminishing number of bees in recent years. It's true that bees are going extinct, perhaps as a part of the Holocene extinction, the sixth age of extinction that scientists proposed is happening right now and has been happening for thousands of years. Just a theory so far, mainly due to human activity. So kudos for being aware of the problem with the diminishing bees, but let's leave beekeeping to the experts to avoid this kind of horror. In England, something that the Americans' founding fathers renounced almost exactly 239 years ago is suddenly headline news in media across the United States. Princess Charlotte of Cambridge was christened yesterday. Whoop-de-doo. No, I won't go into details on what Prince George was wearing or what stroller Princess Catherine used to carry the new royal baby. It's been covered to death by the other news sites and by fanatically obsessed members of obsessed followers. Of course the members will follow it. Fanatically obsessed followers of the family. And now, America. Well then, would you please introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Katie John, floor director and anchor in training. So as many of you soccer fanatics out there might know, the Women's World Cup finals were just a few days ago, and sorry to all Japan's fans out there because USA defeated Japan 5-2. The key player of the USA team was Captain Carly Lloyd, who, in the last third of the match, sliced a corner kick leading the team to victory. USA led the game 4-0, all thanks to no other than Carly Lloyd, who in the first 16 minutes of the match scored a point with the infamous hat trick. Japan did attempt to catch up, but resulted in a score mid-game of 4-2. Ayumi Kaori, the Japanese goalkeeper, did everything in her power to block out any ball that came her way, but Lloyd was nothing Kaori was expecting. In the last minutes of the match, Lloyd and Julie Johnson worked together as they slid through the Japanese defenders. Once Lloyd had a clear shot, she launched a shot from midfield and scored a game-ending point. Despite the rocky, uncertain beginning, USA took home the World Cup and was titled the champions.
Thank you, Katie, for a great job for the first time sitting in the anchor seat, but a little pointer football, not soccer, football. Well, since America won, I'll let it slide this time. Now, for tonight's science news, the American space program had its ups and downs. Most recently, SpaceX and the Russian space program had repeatedly failed to resupply their International Space Station until the Russians finally managed to do it to make up for the epic fails. And trust me, the SpaceX rocket explosion was quite epic. No worries, it was unmanned. Anyways, to make up for the epic fails, NASA's New Horizons probe began to send back higher resolution pictures of Pluto, although it suffered some technical glitch on Independence Day, probably from the overload of Freedom in America. The problem was identified and will be fixed by tomorrow, just a week before the Pluto encounter on the 14th. I've probably talked about New Horizons ever since I began anchoring in Ten10, which was when Ten10 was first created, so it's been a long time. To be fair, I've been waiting for this moment for 9 years, so it also gives me something to look forward to now that AP scores are coming out over this week. So yeah, just to keep a good attitude. And that was the top 10 news of the week. I'm Andy Hong.
And I'm Katie John.
The reason I had Katie up here today was because I'll be actually gone for about a month for internships abroad. She'll take over for me as a new anchor for the time being. I have a lot of new exciting things planned for Ten10 when I get back, so don't y'all get turned away because I'm not anchoring. Sure, you'll miss me, I know, but don't worry. I can trust Katie, I think. Can I?
Maybe.
All right. On that happy note, make sure to like us on Facebook and YouTube and
stay educated.